So before I got here, 37 years spent running an enterprise that would encompass that scrappy navigation of how hard it is when you're signing the front side of a paycheck to get a little business, to ever get beyond that. As we grew into a regional, then national company, things change as you evolve. And we've had discussions before. I'm a proponent of high wages and good benefits. Been out there to where you ought to be able to negotiate and bargain, but there's such a big difference in terms of that dynamic, and then wrapping it with mandates that would never enable most of what comprises our economy, which would be small businesses, Main Street ones, to be in a position to where they'd have to live with some type of homogenous approach to maybe even what we're talking about. And I think even for most business owners, if they can, they're going to weave that into what they're able to offer their employees. And Mr. Fain, we've had the conversation. Big corporations that are in places where they've cornered the market, I think there's a legitimate discussion of how you spread that wealth within between employees and public companies, and a lot of times a professional management that would seem to, rake in levels of pay that I never thought were possible. I want to get back to, though, how I do disagree with trying to do anything from this place that would impose upon the preponderance of businesses out there to where I just don't think they could survive. I think that it's a legitimate issue to talk about voluntarily, and if you're good at what you do and you're going to keep employees, you're going to want to weave it in. I think it's a legitimate issue to bargain for at that highest level of super large corporations and large workforces. I think that's about as far as you can go. Most businesses would not be like yours, Mr. Leland. There is more, you wouldn't be in business if you weren't open 6 days a week for almost any retail business I'm aware of, including my wife's business in our downtown that's been there for now nearly 45 years. It just would not work. Keep that in mind. I want to start with this particular question for Dr. Vittert and Mr. King, and I want to focus on how this would work on Main Street and with small businesses. I'm not worried about big corporations. They generally are going to land on their feet anyway, and I believe they ought to be negotiated with for all the things you might do to improve the position of a worker there. But what about Main Street and small business? We'll start with you, Dr. Vittert, you start, and then Mr. King.
I think exactly what you're saying. Pardon me, sorry. I should learn to mute and Zoom. I should have gotten there at this point. I think it's really important to note that so many of these studies that have been done and these pilots that have shown incredible things, what's done at Kickstarter is amazing, is that it is self-selection. These companies are choosing to be a part of this. And so they are able to cut out extraneous meetings. They are able to shorten coffee breaks. They are able to go to remote meetings for some things so you don't have to commute, whatever it is.
And I've never heard of anything that you've just mentioned in a small business.
Exactly.
That just is not there. We try to do it. And so we don't run out of time because I do have a final question for Mr. Leland. Mr. King, would you weigh in on that too?
Senator, it's good to see you again. This doesn't work for small business. It doesn't work for any type of business. If you can't measure productivity correctly and then have that productivity gap satisfied. The proposal that the chairman is putting in legislation today would require overtime over 8. It would require overtime over 32. It would require overtime double time, in fact, over 12. So a small business needs to have flexibility. Employees have family obligations. They have other obligations in their community. The employer needs them sometimes more than 8, sometimes less. You know that from your business. The bill we're talking about here today interferes with that flexibility. It just is not sound policy.
Thank you. Mr. Leland, would you agree that your business has certain characteristics that probably made it peculiar to you being able to do that? Or do you honestly believe that would be transferable into the multitude of businesses, especially out on Main Street?
Yeah, no, I mean, our business definitely has characteristics that are not unique, but lend themselves towards an easier transition to a 4-day work week. However, the pilots that Dr. Shore has worked on show that this is possible across multiple industries. It looks different. That transformation looks different. But we have seen manufacturing, construction, healthcare, police departments all do this successfully.
Thank you.
Thank you.